Divorce revenge, long story. About a year ago, I was in the midst of a divorce. We were trying to be amicable about it. Due to financial reasons, we had decided to remain living in the same household during the divorce process, not recommended at all. I was planning on moving after we had paid off a couple of bills. We had agreed to live separate lives/separate bedrooms while under the same roof, but had one rule for each other: do not bring a date over and have sex with them in the house. I thought it was just common courtesy during an uncommon living situation. During the summer, we had a large storm that knocked out the power to most of our area. A massive heat wave, 95+ Fahrenheit, followed. We were lucky as we still had our electricity during this time. My soon-to-be ex-husband had just started dating someone new. She had no power and was sweltering in the heat wave. In an attempt to be nice and to show that no hard feelings abounded, I told my ex that if she was dying, he could have her over to enjoy some glorious air conditioning. A small point for clarity: I work nights, thus I sleep during the day. I woke up one afternoon to find my ex and new girl pulling up in the driveway, with an overnight bag in hand. Okay, I guess she's spending the night too, I thought. No matter what, I had to go to work that night. My ex was horrified that I was home and awake. What did he expect? The new girl was rude when I introduced myself. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, because hey, the ex-wife is there in her pajamas. They went upstairs and I went downstairs to give them some space, remembering our rule of no sex. Oh, how naive and stupid I was. We didn't really speak to each other for the rest of the awkward evening and I went on my merry way to work. They were gone when I got home in the morning. A little time went by. She didn't stop over again, but they were still seeing each other. I really didn't care one way or the other. I was happy that he seemed happier, but that was about it. One night before I had to go to work, my ex was sloppy drunk. He confessed that he had slept with a new girl while I was home that night. I saw red. I'm not much of a yelling/screaming type of gal, but I let loose. He apologized. I went to work and started to scheme. He was at work when I got home that morning. I went up to his bedroom, and threw back his blankets and sheets. I bounced on the bed for a while and rolled around to mess everything up. I then took a condom, unrolled it, filled it with my under-eye lotion, it looks like semen, and threw that in the bathroom trash, right on top. I stashed the condom wrapper in the blankets and half-assed made the bed again. We didn't see each other that day and, again, I went to work that night. I got home the next morning and his car was still in the garage. Uh-oh. He was supposed to be at work. I go into the house and he's still in his bedroom. Oh crap. He called down to me and asked me to come upstairs. Ah, damn. He was still in bed and looked like he had been crying. He asked if I had had sex in his bed. I tried to look innocent, aka not laugh, and said I had no idea what he was talking about. He stated that he had found his bed messed up, a condom wrapper in the blankets, and a used condom in the trash. After a while, I couldn't hold it in anymore and told him the truth. I had staged the whole thing for revenge. He broke the rule of no sex in the house. The most beautiful thing of all, he didn't believe me. Part of our problems that led to our divorce was that he was incredibly jealous and controlling, always thought I was cheating on him. He then stated that he had his first therapy session scheduled for later that afternoon. Even better, a few weeks later he told me that a new girl had broken up with him because of his issues and baggage. I gave the car to my wife. The happy. Years ago, I used to be married to she who must not be named, in my family. For the purposes of brevity, we shall call her Alice. Somewhat significant age gap when we got married, I was 27 and Alice was 19 at the time. We had our share of ups and downs, and during one particularly hard time about a year after we got married, we were sunk in credit card debt and had to move in with her mother, who had a whole bunch of chronic medical problems and no insurance. Her stepdad is a shade tree mechanic, who was not bad at it actually, but couldn't get regular work because he had medical problems all his own. Move in, cut some costs, help the family. It's the right thing to do, right? Problem was, Alice and I couldn't seem to both hold jobs at the same time. She would get laid off a week before I would start a new job, and vice versa. After about 9 months of this, I was like, screw it, I'ma get all the jobs. I get a job working weeknights. I get a weekend job. The temp service I signed up with was really aggressive and got me decent weekday jobs on a regular basis. The only problem was, these jobs were over an hour away from her mom's and I'd be so dead tired from working. I'd crash at my brother's place, which was 10 minutes away, the next city over. I'd only be able to go home to see Alice every few days, then have to get up a few hours later so I could beat the rush hour into work. 4 months pass, and we find ourselves slowly inching from the red into the black. One day, Alice lets me know that she got a job. It's about 20 minutes away, and only I have a working car. She has friends that can give her a ride when I'm not home, and I take her to work or pick her up every chance I get. This goes on for about a month. Finally she says, I think I need my own car. It's all good, she's an independent girl, and I can see how hard it is for her to be so dependent on other people. I do some quick math and figure it would take about 4 months for us to get enough money together to get a decent beater that won't die in a year. She nods her understanding. I see her disappointment, and my man pride cannot take it. I level up and go beast mode. I start taking side jobs, mostly construction, with a friend of a friend who pays on a per day basis to fill out the times when I have blanks on weekdays, when the temp agency hasn't got anything for me and I pull double shifts for the weekend job. I sleep an average of 4 or 5 hours a day. 3 weeks later, I have purchased a car for her, a cute little 4x4 that I saw on Craigslist. Mechanically sound, but was dirty AF. I park it at a friend's place and over the course of a week, give that grimy bastard the most comprehensive cleaning of its life. You could have eaten off the wheel wells, I kid you not. My good buddy Nathan springs for some cheap but nice visuals, will paint, seat covers, floor mats, etc., and we make it look even better. When we move it out of the garage, my friend's mom swears it can't be the same car and I have to prove it to her. I leave my car with Nathan, and drive home in her car. Timing is perfect. I'm about 10 minutes away from home when Alice calls me on my cell. She wants to go get some groceries. I let her know I'll be there in a bit and park by the curb one house down. I knock on the door and tell her to come out so we can go. She steps out and looks around. Where's your car? Left it at Nathan's. What did you drive? That. I point at the car. Whose car is that? Yours. She takes a couple of seconds to process that single word. Then, her jaw drops and Alice runs back inside screaming, Mom, insane RN got me a car. The sad. A couple of years go by. Alice has learned how to use a manual transmission because her baby has one. Between myself and her stepdad, Alice has learned to change the oil herself, and even took an active part in replacing the brake pads and all 4 shock absorbers on her baby. She bathes her baby herself. She has learned to take care of her baby. Mother-in-law's medical problems are mostly manageable with meds now, and stepdad is getting almost regular work thrown his way by friends and previous customers. We have moved out of her mom's place, and I'm only working 2 jobs now. Credit card debt is down by 80%. Alice also has a steady job, and is thinking of going back to school. And then I find out she is cheating on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There is no third time. There must be payback. My man pride demands it. The mad. A week after the nuke drops on our marriage, I've worked out the problem. She's already gotten her stuff and moved out by then. I call her up to meet. Lunchtime, her work. Just to talk, I say. There's a little pseudo-eco-industrial picnic area right by the building she works at, and there's a fair amount of foot traffic, that is, witnesses. There's some chit-chat, and she makes a vague appeal to working things out by dragging my dead dad into it. Hell no. You don't have the right to do that. You had a 1% chance, but that just flat out dropped it to 0. I cut her off mid-sentence. I'm taking the car. Your car? What? The pink slip is in my name. I'm taking back my property right now. And if you don't hand over the keys right now, I'm going to report it stolen to the police. But you gave that car to me. I'd been talking in a normal, conversational tone up until this time. Her betrayal rams into my chest for the 1000th time. My voice hardens. I didn't give the car to you. I gave the car to my wife. Her brain still isn't firing on all cylinders. She asks, but how will I get to work? Get your boyfriend to drive you. I'm still looking at her. Her face goes slack as she realizes that I am not kidding. I take the keys, get into her baby, and drive off. I look at her as we pass. She still has the same look on her face. And I drive all the way home with the biggest grin on mine. I buy my wife a car. She cheats on me. We break up. I take the car back. P.S. Goddamn, that was cathartic. This is the best I've felt in over a decade. P.P.S. Car stuck around for another year before I sold it to my buddy Nathan. I only wanted $100 for it, and he wanted to pay Blue Book. We compromised, I sold it for the same price I bought it. Which was way cheaper than Blue Book. PPPS, thanks for the gold, anonymous Redditor. As suggested, I did some name changing to make it flow better. Also, not their real names. There's always that one person. Pro-divorce. Throwaway as this might not make me very popular, even in pro-revenge. This all happened to me a few years ago. I told a friend the story of my divorce and I was told to share. Started a few years ago. I thought we were happy. We were your usual suburban professional couple. Financially secure, healthy, good sex life, 2 kids, 14 female and 9 male at the time. I thought we had a healthy social life. We were going through one of your typical married couple rough patches. Both of us were working long hours, not spending enough time together. We were going through some developmental problems with my son and tensions in the house were running a little high. I noticed that she was spending a lot more time on her phone texting with her girlfriends. I didn't think much of it. I started making a much more concerted effort to get out of work when I could, help around the house and be more emotionally available, but over the course of a few weeks the gulf just kept getting wider. I ended up accidentally finding some messages when I charged up an old iPad for my son to use. Her Facebook Messenger was still logged in and there were a lot of highly questionable messages with a guy from her hometown who I will call Jim Bob Cooter or JBC for short. The messages weren't completely inappropriate, but I could tell there were quite a few missing based on the times and context of the messages. I made a mental note to keep an eye on this and went about trying to fix things up. The next day after I took the day off to knock out some projects that I thought would make her happy, and left her some sweet notes reminding her how much I appreciated her, she was once again in the corner of the living room texting her girlfriends. I took the boy's iPad to the office, opened up Facebook Messenger and watched in real time as my wife tore me down. Her and JBC were making fun of me. All of my flaws, insecurities and secrets I entrusted to my partner were now fodder for her and JBC. Not only that, but while there wasn't outright sexting, there was a sexual undertone to the whole conversation, especially when she was bashing my performance in the sack. I managed to take some screenshots, but missed a good bit of the messages, because as the conversation was unfolding she was deleting them. I wasn't emotionally capable of confronting her. I stayed in the office until she was asleep and had a couple of drinks. I took off the next day and spent some time soul searching, drinking and trying to figure out what to do. My wife came home and wanted to know what was wrong and I just coped out and told her I had a bad day. A couple of minutes later I was watching the iPad as the train wreck kept unfolding. So I began a couple of solid weeks of taking screenshots, drinking and detaching myself from the relationship. I knew there was no going back from this. The messages were now overly sexual with my wife completely into it, and JBC was sprinkling in I love yous. I consulted a lawyer and got my options, and started moving forward. Here's where everything got absolutely surreal. Watching the messages I found out JBC was coming to town to spend a weekend of quality time with my wife in a pretty nice hotel. I was missing a good bit of the info, they must have had a phone conversation about it at some point, but I was able to infer enough to get the when and where. Sure as shit the next day the wife is buttering me up and wanting to take a spa weekend with the girls to relax, and when she gets back we can really focus on our marriage. I go with it all the way. It's the greatest idea she's ever had, and I'll do anything to get us back on track. I get with a lawyer and have him draft a strong separation agreement stating that she would move out, she would get weekend visitation, no child support in the interim until the divorce is final. Then I sit through the most agonizing 2 weeks of my life. After all this, most of my feelings for her are completely gone, and I'm just seething with anger as I've never felt before. D-Day arrives. I take the day off work. I withdraw half of any money in any accounts we are joined on, leave her half alone. I had already redirected my paycheck to a new bank. I close our money market account and get a cashier's check for her half and deposit my half in my new account. I stop at Office Max and print out about 75 pages of Facebook Messenger screenshots, and I kill time because I don't want to be at home. She texts me that she's taking off and that she loves me. I tell her to have fun. I show up to the hotel at about 8:30 and call my wife's phone from the lobby. It goes straight to voicemail. They are probably already at it, whatever. I walk up to the front desk and ask if I can use the phone to be connected to the JBC's room. It rings 3 times and he picks up. JBC, hello? Me, JBC, can you send my wife down to the lobby please? JBC, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Me, okay then. I guess I'll have to call Mrs. JBC and get her down here. Totally a bluff. I knew he was married, and I knew her first name, but that was it. JBC, inaudible, shuffling, panic. Me, you got 5 minutes. Click. Not even 2 minutes later my wife comes walking out of the elevator looking a little flustered. I sit her down in the corner of the lobby. Her, starts spewing bullcrap saying it's not what it seems, etc. Me, I'm not here to argue. The things that are said in this pile of papers are what's going on. The only way I'm not giving a copy of this to your daughter, your parents, and emailing it to everyone we know is if you move out immediately. My wife was very prideful. The daughter was going through a rebellious teen phase and her knowing probably would have forever killed their relationship. My wife was also her parents' golden child and she always worried about what they thought of her. I didn't have much leverage and shame was my only card to play. Also her professional life is built up around her image, so I knew she would protect that at all costs. Her, sniffle, mumble, inaudible. Me, this is a check for half of the money market account. I've withdrawn my half of the money from all the other joint accounts. You should have more than enough to get a place. She starts to cry a little. I could almost see the different thoughts and waves of emotions going through her, but now was the time to keep pressing. Me, here is a separation agreement that I think is more than fair considering what's going on. I'm going to need you to look this over, sign it, and leave it at the house when you get your stuff. Do you want to look through these screenshots? Her, no. Me, okay. Go have fun with JBC. Do not come back to the house or I'm going to send this, holds up a ream of screenshots, to everyone. I bounce out of the lobby, and I can hear her start to have a breakdown. I get to the car, drive off to a parking lot and have my own crying rage fit. Previously I would have cried in front of her and yelled and whatnot, but I managed to get my shit together enough to pull it off. I don't know what she did that night or over the weekend. She texted and called over and over wanting to talk. I just turned the phone off and by the time Monday afternoon rolled around there were movers getting her stuff and she delivered the agreement. I let her have a talk with the kiddos basically saying mommy and daddy need some time apart, we still love you. Standard divorce talk. After a week she wants to have a real talk for the first time. I oblige her because I've already got myself together and I've got an idea of what I want, but I should hear her out. She's so sorry. She wants another chance. She wants her family back. She'll do anything. She's on her knees crying into my lap. I have no intention of ever taking her back. I tell her she needs to set up marriage counseling on her own at a time that works for me. I tell her that I can't live with her, but she should be around the children to try to maintain a relationship with them. So starts our new normal of her coming over the house, cooking and having dinner with the kids 3 nights a week. She always saved me a plate, I made myself scarce, her cleaning the house and doing the kids' laundry, then heading back to her place. We went to counseling. It consisted of her working through her issues with the therapist, trying to figure out why she did it, her begging for forgiveness, and me stoically playing the victim. I was never going to give her another chance. All I wanted to do was kill time, establish myself as the primary caregiver to the kids, and establish her as not having residency in the house. After a few months, I go to my own therapist and get diagnosed with depression and PTSD. I ask my work if it's possible to go to part-time for the foreseeable future to deal with personal issues, and it's no big deal. After 6 months of therapy, I told her that I couldn't forgive her right now and that I wanted an amicable divorce, but she is still the love of my life and maybe someday we could give it another try. She was devastated, but agreed to the divorce if I promised to try again someday. Once the divorce was filed, I needed the kids to want to stay with me. I left a Google search for how to survive your wife's infidelity upon the shared PC at home, and I left some printed out infidelity articles not so hidden in the kitchen. My daughter found them and came to me crying. I told her she wasn't supposed to find those, that mom made a mistake, that mom still loves her, and that I would always be here for her. My daughter, who used to hold my wife in such high regard, now wouldn't talk to her without screaming, and it crushed her. Not surprisingly, when the court needed statements from the kids a few months later, little brother followed big sister's lead and they both wanted to stay with dad in the house they grew up in. When the divorce was finalized, I got the house, had to buy out some of her equity, but that's okay. I got primary custody of the kids. I got awarded generous child support due to the difference in our incomes due to me working part-time. Now for the last 2 years, I've gotten to live in the house with my kids, work part-time, get the now ex to subsidize it for me, and when she takes the kids over the weekends, I get to have my fun with Tinderellas and some FWBs I've cultivated. In the eyes of my kids, I'm the patron saint of fatherhood for taking the high road and always being there. In the eyes of my ex, I'm the one that got away that she will always pine for, and I get the bonus of having her come over for sex, whenever I want it, by dangling that carrot of maybe getting back together. But that is never going to happen. Got divorced and it worked out.